Jaden Show, and here's your host, Jaden Cornelius. Christmas again? Is it Christmas again? It must be, because I'm ever so excited. Why am I so excited? Because, kids, because this week I have got another phenomenal show with an absolutely incredible artist. Now, if you remember back in the 80s, amazing groups such as Guys and Dolls and Dollar, then you are going to be blown off of your seat because of this week's show. I know I am, because this is not only one of the most beautiful women that has ever walked the planet, but one of the most talented and loveliest souls I've ever met. She is the amazing Thereza Bazar, and you're about to meet her very shortly. But I think if I talk more, then she doesn't come on that quickly and it just wastes time. And I just want to introduce her to you as quick as possible. But before we do that, let's go and listen to one of my favorite songs ever. I have sung this song so many times in front of the mirror. It is unbelievable. Back in my ute. This is Thereza Bazar. This is Dollar. This is Mirror Mirror.
Dollar.
Oh my God, I need to do this bit really quickly because in a couple of seconds' time, I'm chatting to the amazing Thereza Bazar. So please welcome to the Jaden Show, my extremely special guest, the wonderful, the beautiful, the talented, the only Thereza Bazar. Thereza Bazar, oh my God, welcome to Mexico and the Jaden Show. How are you?
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm okay. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm much better now. I'm talking to one of my icons from back in the
That's
day.
very nice. Yeah, I better be on my best behavior and not disappoint you, huh?
Well, well, I think there was I remember in the 90s when I was kind of getting a little bit well known, and they said, never meet your idols because they'll always disappoint. And actually, I've met a couple of them, including like you said, you now, Olivia Newton-John, and people, and I was always beyond impressed with the loveliness of the people that I was like were my muses back in the day. So it was super cool. So before you started singing, because you've been singing for a couple of years now, back in the day,
a couple of decades, few decades.
Who were your icons when you first started? Who were the people that kind of that you would kick back and listen to and think, oh my God, I want to be like them when I grow up?
The first big impression were the Carpenters.
Oh my God.
I loved their music. I mean, I wasn't really into pop music. I was into ballet, and I listened to classical music all the time. Chopin, Tchaikovsky, Beethoven, Dvorak, and my dad was a semi-professional jazz guitarist, so he'd have Dave Brubeck and Django Reinhardt, and of course Ella and Frank. So I kind of never really listened to pop music, but I heard the Carpenters, and I was just mesmerized by the harmonies and that sort of the wall of sound and how everything sort of layered, the layering. So I remember their first album that I bought with my pocket money from stacking shelves in a supermarket. And I remember I just learned all the harmonies. It was my drill. I'm sure it was my foundation for everything. I just practiced every harmony on every track, and I start with the lowest ones.
Okay.
I go through the whole album, put it back to the beginning, and go, okay, now I'm going to do the next one. Wow. And I learned, and if I made a mistake, I'd have to go back and do it again.
I've always said that actually Karen Carpenter was my first singing tutor, even though she didn't realise it. I was kicked out the choir for being tone deaf. I used to sing like this all the time. And then I think I heard the Carpenters in my godmother's car once. I think that's where I must have heard them. And how she like ebbed and flowed with her voice, and like that whole kind of long ago, and it's like, oh my God, you have me already. Like, I'm in love.
It's like pouring cream.
Absolutely.
It's just simply beautiful. And every time I hear a Carpenters record, it makes me really sad.
Me too.
It makes me really sad.
Me too. I have to listen. I actually sing a lot of Carpenter stuff now. When I was in London, I'd gone through the whole pop thing, and then became classical, crossover, and opera. So I started, and because I looked like this, it was kind of worked for me, because singing Nessun Dorma with tattoos and piercings in jeans and t-shirt kind of helped, really. And then when I came to Mexico, and I'd be in the middle of like Nessun Dorma, and someone go, do you know any Whitney? Like, yes. So I started becoming the British boy of ballads, and so I was like, right, that's it. I can get my teeth into all the people that I loved back in the day. So Karen Carpenter, ABBA, Olivia, Ella, Frank, all those as well, and now I have like a collection, I think, of 620 different songs by over 230 different artists that I sing. Wow. Whereas I came here with 30 classical backing tracks. But so to sing like the Carpenter stuff, I'm like, oh my God, I was so born in the wrong era. Like I would have been like cutting up Des O'Connor and
but it was the harmonies. It was the harmonies and how they washed over one another. It was really really something. And then sort of from there, of course, you mentioned ABBA, just immediately went on to ABBA. And I swear, sort of in the late 70s, early 80s, I would honestly hold my hand up and say, I love ABBA. I love everything about them. And everyone would go, shh, you can't say that. Go on, cool. And, so, and I said, why? Why can't I say that? And they go, because you don't really. I said, yeah, I do. Really love them. Just, I don't know. But
they were pop magic. The writing and everything and the harmonies, the whole concept was genius. And obviously, because now they've just released another album after how many years and started this, this virtual holographic tour, like, they know how to work their industry. Do you know what I mean? Like, power to them.
I think part of it was, though, it's funny, isn't it? Because The Carpenters weren't, well, I don't think anyway, but because they played instruments, I mean, and even Super Crazy that Karen played the drums. I mean, that is beyond sort of, you know, what you would imagine.
Yeah.
Even I was kind of, oh, she's a drummer, you know. But from the 70s, obviously with Guys and Dolls, the first group, it was just so cheesy. You know, anything that was girl boy was like super cheesy and super sweet, you know. And you've got the Osmonds and Donnie and Marie, and then you've got Olivia Newton-John and John Travolta, and it's just all smacks of. So of course,
of cheese.
You just kind of bundled into this. I mean, I don't know, being called every rude sort of word under the sun, you know, naff and numbing, and you know, and all this kind of stuff. Whereas really, you know, at least I used to cling on to myself because I thought I'll always be authentic. I thought, well, but there must be a whole lot of other people out there who kind of like this as well as I do, because that's why they're buying all these records. But that's the Brits for you. Always want to be different and alternate and cool and buck the trend and follow a, you know, and I kind of thought I was never really like that. I mean, I could, you know, I just wasn't.
We've been creating and destroying artists since the beginning of artists.
Well, they haven't destroyed me. I'm still here.
Bloody going, girl, and I'm so chuffed with that. I was like, obviously, I'm a gay man, and I didn't know back in the day. I think you, Olivia Newton-John, and Agneta from ABBA. I didn't know whether I wanted to marry you or be you. So beautiful.
Well, all rolled into one, the three of us. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that's kind of disturbing. I maybe need therapy now. But no, I was just like, oh my God, you and Linda Carter was kind of, and Carol Carpenter were in that group as well. I was so like, the Mirror Mirror, which we've just seen on the interview, was probably, I probably sung that with hairbrush in front of the mirror so many times as a 13, 14-year-old.
And now you know, it's actually not such an easy sing, is it? It sounds just like a little ditty, but if you really try and do it properly.
Absolutely.
It's not that easy.
It's not that easy. Absolutely. And I'm pretty sure I met David back in the day as well, I think, through a friend of mine at some event. But you started, did you meet David was it through the Guys and Dolls that you met David?
Met David through Guys and Dolls, yes.
It did come from that. Were you just like headhunted, or did you think, saw this, let's do our own thing?
No, it was so Guys and Dolls was a formulated, you know, an artificially put together group around a record that had been already made. And so that was literally answering an audition. And of course, there's me. So naive. I mean, honestly, I think I was 17 then. I looked about 12 and rocked up, haha. I had a long A-line black skirt on, sort of some flattish boots and a roll neck polo neck jumper and my mum's raincoat. And that was it. You know, I had no just no clue. And anyway, got chosen maybe for a whole load of reasons, or maybe as I laughingly do say, you know, maybe I was the only girl that was smaller than David and you know, but we were the little cute ones on the end kind of stuff. And we got kicked out. We got kicked out of Guys and Dolls.
Wow.
So I don't know if you know that, but
no.
David had wanted to be a solo artist for a while. I mean, you know, he just was. The whole idea was that we meant to all get our little bit of light to shine, you know, and a chance to do some leads. But it didn't really work out like that. And I can understand that commercially now. But so he was getting really fed up, you know, not really any camera shots, no lead vocals. So he was just a bit of sort of, you know, candy fodder at the end, you know, and there's me so happy just to work really hard and love the harmonies and thought, oh, this is great. And I'm learning about pop music. And then, of course, there's me opening my mouth a bit more saying, you know, I think we should be finding some better songs. We should. And then I understood about musical direction. And I said, don't really think we're making the song choices, guys. You know, our musical direction, everyone's looking at me going, who does she think she is? So he got kicked out because he was making too many complaints. And I got thrown out because we were an item, you know. And I thought, well, how does that work in life? You know, I was so naive even then. Why would they throw me out when I was being so good and so caring about our musical direction?
And then Dollar was birthed. And that's when I kind of got to find out about you guys. And
yeah,
I remember what song
it was a wonderful accident. wonderful accident. Just we weren't meant to be a duo. David was meant to be a solo artist, and I was meant to be the loving, supporting girlfriend. But he couldn't get a solo deal for love nor money, and we sort of met up with these two guys who were sort of like management kind of people, and they said, "Oh, we think we might be able to get you a deal as a duo," and it just seemed to be, the only viable option. And that's it. We got signed as a duo, and that was how it all started. Again, not planned.
But fun days. I mean, obviously, like you said, you've come from a very a very diverse musical background, from your classical and your opera and all this kind of stuff. And now you're doing really hardcore pop. Did you enjoy the songs and the vibe that you were doing, or was it kind of like was you doing it because you could do it, you looked amazing, you sounded amazing, and you could do it, or did you have a bloody good time doing it?
Oh, it became my passion. I mean, most luckiest woman in the world to find out that you suddenly falling in love with something that you had no idea really existed. And pop music became my thing. But everything, I became a backroom boy. I was in the studio all the time. Never left the studio. I learned, and I watched, and I listened, and I would split the atom of, well, do you think that synth sound could have a tiny bit more in the lower range there? We could maybe do this or roll. I mean, seriously, I was about as intense as you could ever imagine. I mean, and I guess it was I was a bit of a weirdie in that way, because people are going, well, but she's this sort of like very petite little kind of pretty girl. What's she doing talking about sort of music and this really sort of like stuff? But so in a way I was kind of bucking the trend a lot back then. I didn't know I wasn't doing it on purpose, but I was doing it because I was following my dreams, and my dream was to make absolutely magnificent pieces of pop music that would affect people's lives. And even though there were 3.5, 4 minutes of pop, if someone accused us of recording drivel, as I said, or, if they attacked the music, I would be full throttle. If they attacked me personally for my image, I go, can't please everyone. It hurt, but you kind of move on. But if they questioned the quality of our music, I was angry, beside myself, and I would at any chance find whoever wrote that and have a good old conversation about it.
Wow. But you're right about, something that is 3 minutes of an experience can really affect. I noticed when I left the UK to live in Mexico, everything that had made me in those 43 years now didn't exist, excluding two things: my tradition and my music, my history of music. So my language was changed, my culture, my climate. I wasn't down the road from my family. I wasn't able to go and say, oh, me and my nan went here for coffee when she was alive. Or it was completely different. Like, you could not get further from my life. But the only thing that remained was and thanks to God we have the internet, I could go on YouTube and I could watch Bucks Fizz and ABBA and yourselves, and and I was like, and that was the connection to everything that I've been before. So that 3 minutes of you being on top of the pops singing Mirror Mirror or Ola More, it might have been for some people, it's just pop music, doesn't really do anything for anyone, because there's a lot of non-pop fans out there. But for some people, it's their connection to who they have been. When I hear, even now, like Bucks Fizz's, the Fizz's new stuff now, it's just like, that's really good bloody music. It was like, it changes so much. So what happened with Dollar? Did it just fade out? Was it something you thought, we've done enough of this now, let's kind of move on and do our own things? Or
so we had I don't know what the plural of hiatus is, but we had a couple of them. Whatever, that sounds like a cactus, doesn't it? From your
hiatus, I think it is.
Hiatus. Thank you very much for that. I'll put that in the brain there. Very hard. Actually, it's a very hard question, but it was a simple answer. We kind of romantically disconnected ourselves. It was like being manacled at the hip, seriously. Although we romantically disconnected ourselves, we were still manacled at the hip, because we created this image and people knew us, and kind of whatever you wanted to do, that's what, you have to give the customer what they want to a certain extent. So we broke up. David flipped out. I think we were in Japan, just walked out one day, and we were really on a roll. It was after the Trevor Horn run of hits, and America kind of was knocking at the door a little bit, and we had a whole load of options, but he just freaked out, and that was it. And so that's when I did my solo album, which tragically didn't see the light of day, really, and that is one of the biggest sadnesses, I think, musically, that I worked with. I was taught the craft of songwriting with the best of the cream of British songwriters. I worked with Arif Mardin. I mean, what a treat to be able to be with someone, to work with that sort of caliber. The musicianships, it was just extraordinary. And anyway, but it's a business, and the record company boss in it was a US UK combo kind of arrangement, and the head of MCA in the US got the sack the week that my album was released, and everything just sort of fell apart. There was no captain steering the ship, and it all sort of imploded, which was such a knock. I mean, I've taken a lot of knocks in my life, but that really did hit me. And then what do? I picked up the phone to David and just said, "Do you feel like making a record and doing something together?" Because I think I just needed some safety. I just wanted to go back to what was safe for me, and at least the British public knew who we were. But of course, they've moved forward as well. Not such a great idea in hindsight, but I think I was really suffering and didn't really know how. There was no one, that could fix that. So I tried, and then we had made some really lovely records. Actually, we were more mature, and we really made some great records. An Anne Dudley record, we released "We Walked in Love," which was almost hits in the 60s. But people, unless you're in the industry, it's so hard to get the machinery spot on to create a hit. It's not just a great record or the great image, or it's so much more than that. So we found finally it was sort of, and by then I think I was sort of almost at the end of my tether, but thought, you know what? And I found Au L'Amour on the Erasure album. I mean, the greatest things come out of mistakes. I popped into HMV to buy the second Erasure album because I've always loved, from Yazoo to, just love Vince Clarke forever. And I bought the wrong album. I was in such a hurry, and I bought the wrong album. I thought, oh, flipping heck. And I thought, well, I've got it now. I'll put it in the car. And I'm driving around the Cotswolds listening to the first album, and an Au L'Amour comes
How
up.
did you feel about that? I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I'm sort of going, what? I kind of, but this wasn't a hit, because I was pretty fastidious about keeping my ears open. And I thought that, and I could hear it immediately. I could hear the production. I just knew it. And I thought, I'm going to do it myself. I thought, that's it. If you want something done properly, do it yourself. Don't be at the mercy of anybody. And I think that's how I felt. It wasn't showing off or anything. I just suddenly thought, I just want to make this record because I know it can be. I know how it will sound.
And I think by this point, your craft, you've studied, you've worked, you've had loads of success. And like you said, it's not coming from a naive place of, well, I'll just do it myself. It's like, oh my God, I'm not giving up. I need to make this happen. I'm doing it. It's that. And
I loved it. I mean, I loved every bit of that. And of course, being with London Records, who was so uber cool. I mean, there's Tracy Bennett, who is the head of A&R. I mean, he sort of marches in with his black leather boots off his motorbike. I mean, it's just crazy cool stuff. But so it was, I suppose, in a simplistic way, it's sort of trying to just finally get some respect.
Yeah, absolutely.
On a much deeper level than just something like, oh, I loved you on Top of the Pops, or because it's always like, where do you, and that's part of being a female, is in those days, how do you, if you look glam and you look attractive and everything, then are you, then you're in that box. And no one can really accept that you could also be intelligent, you could be business minded, you could be good at record production, you could have multiple skills, but no one ever saw that.
And I don't. Have we really changed?
Oh, no.
No, like you still kind of, you still, I met Olivia Newton-John a few times, and she was beautiful, one of the most beautiful women on the planet, beautiful natured women I've ever met in my life. But she was hard. Like, you wouldn't mess with her. Do you know what I mean? She wasn't just little Sandy from Greece. She was an ultimate businesswoman. Like, she knew her onions, But people just, I think even now, like, you see the likes of Ariana Grande, Rihanna, and it still is about the look, no matter how. I think part of me thinks now with the whole TikTok concept as well, that are actually getting quite worse, because I remember once I was singing a track that was actually originally done by Josh Groban, and I thought, I'm going to see who else has done this track. I had like 4,000 or 5,000 hits on my YouTube, and there was this guy who'd also covered the same song, and he had like some 1 million hits or something, and I was like, I bet that boy can sing. So I watched it, and I was like, wait, number one, he is stunning looking, like he's a beautiful looking boy. And now he's topless within 30 seconds of that show. And he couldn't sing if his life depended on it. Like, really, I'm not saying I'm a nice singer, but I'm not even one of the best. But this guy couldn't sing. But because that boy was fine, he had 1.5 million views on. And it's like, even worse now,
That's what I mean. So it's kind of, it's like it's almost like it's an impediment to have your looks, if you want to be taken seriously. And that was it, like in the 80s, like that incredible shift musically, the beginnings of all the tech stuff, and computerized desks and all of this stuff. But we were, as Dollar, we were charming, attractive. It's almost like, your nana and your mum and you, the kid could all watch something together.
Yeah, everyone was enough, of course, yeah. Wholesome. I
like them.
Yeah.
But we were trying to, in the end, it was the reverse. We were kind of the norm and mainstream, but everyone else it was punk and it was new wave. And if you didn't look weird or grungy or scary, then you were just naff and boring and unbelievable, isn't it, really? And little me then, I kept, because I just wanted to be liked. I don't know where this it wasn't a validation to be liked for who you are. You don't have to set the world on fire, but you could just be liked or respected. But there was none of that. It was brutal. And it took a lot of knocks before I finally stood up and went, I'm not having it. I'm not having it anymore. But it took a lot.
Exhausting. I was saying to my friend the other day, on an interview as well, I'm just saying, like, for someone, he's a really great actor from the US, and and I was one of the shyest kids on the block, like desperately shy.
Me too. I was so shy.
Intensely. Couldn't even get on a bus until I was 20 because I couldn't walk on in front of people. And then you kind of think, why the hell would you choose the most nasty, cutthroat, hard work, industry where everything is about, his nose is way too big, now it's too short, now he's got a bit of fat on him, and the precedents that are, like you said, to be always, you can't go over 27-inch waist. I was until I was 32, I think. And my clothes were made for me before they even decided whether they fitted. I had to fit the clothes. The clothes weren't made to fit me.
Of course.
And I was lucky, But then I met some phenomenally talented people. I was nice. I was a good singer and all right looking. But these people were phenomenally talented, but they weren't that hot. And they had so they were backing vocals, studio vocalists, and some of the studio vocalists I met would knock Whitney, Ella out of the ballpark, mate. They were just amazing, but they couldn't be on screen because they didn't fit.
That's what I mean. It's really it's really, really interesting, and yet it becomes a burden. I mean, you can't sort of win.
No.
And I think when I first got into the industry, I had no idea how horrible it was. I was, like, as I said, so naive and believing that everyone would be reasonable and nice, and it took a lot of education. It took a lot of education, and especially when I started getting in, all my friends, they were all on the business side. I didn't have hardly any muso friends because I kind of didn't. I believed that they wouldn't have related to me. I think they actually would, but I was nervous. I was so nervous of just messing up or not living up to expectation. But sort of talking about the industry with business people, it was a much safer sort of like journey for me to navigate. But
can I ask, why did you feel that? Did you feel that you would be judged more by the entertainers, or was it just because? I don't know, like, because I kind of felt the same. Like, I was very shy. So to meet other artists, I didn't want to do it. Like, for me, put me in a studio and I'm like a king in his castle. I love the creation of music. Have to go out and do a gig. It's a bit easier now because I'm older and I really don't care as much about how people take me. I can sing and I do what I do because I love it. I don't need people's approval. But do you think at the time, what did you think was going to be the reaction? Jealousy, maybe? Or, I mean, why didn't you feel that you would be able to fit in with other artists? Because you were at the top of what you were doing.
Yeah, sorry. So I think the key word there is approval. I guess we were swimming against the tide. Everything was running at 100 miles an hour, sort of with sound and style. And it was almost like if you didn't fit the prerequisite of being uber cool or trendy or different or radical or have different messages, sort of stirring up the underbelly of something, you kind of felt that you were doomed to be slated. And kind of, I felt that the boy girl thing, it was an added negative, because it made you cheesy even before you started. And yet there weren't any other boy girl, and if they were boy girl duos, I mean, like Annie and Dave, they were pretty trendy, they were groovy, they were different.
Right.
They were different. So we weren't different. But then to my mind, I was thinking, but if everyone's different,
you were the only one doing that. Absolutely. So you were completely different.
Different because we're the only ones that weren't different.
Yeah.
It's exactly my rationale in my head. But I just don't, I didn't have an ego, never had an ego. I used to work terribly hard and try and give my absolute best, to be my best, look my best. And I think I had very high expectations. That's perfectionism from the ballet days. But when it's almost like you're going to be slated, and people are going to be rude to you before you even start. And when you can do it through the protection of a lens, that's okay.
Yeah, cameras are wonderful. They're my best friends, yeah.
But if you're actually sitting with somebody, it just makes you feel so vulnerable. And I think
it was a jealousy thing, because intelligent, artistic, talented, and beautiful, people are going to hate you just for being there. I mean, in reality,
I don't know who you're talking about, but
but really, I mean, I think, I think you're damned if you do. I don't think there was anything you could possibly do. If someone had decided to be a hater, they were going to be a hater. It didn't matter whether you put a stud in your nose and dyed your hair red or started doing kind of eurythmic style music. I just think, because then they'd be like, well, she's not Annie.
Yeah, it's
you wouldn't be able to anyway.
But none of us realize, I'm sure you probably, the cluey people, I was cluey in some ways and not in others, that the influencers of the day were the inkies. I've learned that word, I love it. The inkies, the guys that wrote
the music
for the very respected music mags, and they controlled what was trendy, what was cool, what was acceptable, what wasn't. And it wasn't until Paul Morley, thank goodness for Paul, actually stood up and said, you know what? This is with handheld and black and white. No, he said, and I don't know even if he said, well, putting them aside, you know, the present, I can't even remember, but that's exactly what I wanted to hear. If you don't like our image, that's okay.
That don't matter, yeah.
But don't you dare comment because of our image on the beauty and the pristine quality and class of the music.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And he was the first one, and then that kind of, you know, and then, you know, people as they're sheep, of course they are, and then everyone, you know, he was so uber cool, everyone starts to follow. But yeah, it took I don't know, it's just, I just wanted people to like me, really. And the British public liked me en masse, but I was just very vulnerable. I kind of created this alter. You know, these two women, basically it was Thereza, and she was the professional, and she was polished and groomed, and she was charming, and she could do everything. And then there was me that was sort of like sitting with a bowl of food, you know, watching the telly or hiding behind the sofa going, oh no, why did I look like that? Oh, really shouldn't have worn that. Or why did I, you know, second guessing, critical. Super critical.
I think we were related in a past life, because like you're talking my story, really. I was exactly the same. Never. I never felt accepted by anyone. And even though, you know, you're going great, and never ever even particularly concentrated on the good feedback that I was getting from, because I was good at writing, I was good at, you know, really good at harmonies. I used to phase the mic, because my harmonies were so because my double tracking was so spot on, it would phase the mic. So
you're so accurate. And then they go,
can't do it, Jaden.
You have to be so accurate. I'm blinking at them going, what do you mean? So, well, we want you to double track it, but we don't want you to do it so perfectly. And I'm going, right. You know.
And I remember people used to complain because I would say something like your eyes rather than your eyes. So I changed and made sure that I pronounced my stuff better. And I was working with Mike Stock. I think it was Mike Stock. And yeah, when the Stock Aitken and Waterman split, I think it was Mike Stock's company. And I'd done a track with him. And he was like, you sing too English. Like, you've got to be slurring. It's your eyes, not your eyes. I was like, I've just been doing what people tell me to do. Yeah. So it was like,
forever. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, I was saying it just like that. Going back to what we were saying, I mean, you know, irrespective of your look, your talent, your knowledge, there's always going to be someone whose nose is put out by you.
I suppose so, but I just couldn't. It was so hard to make sense of things. And then the one thing that actually I think was a really big shift for me was and as I'm writing this book, well, we're in the middle of writing a book, which is very exciting. It's kind of quite cathartic, although it's like Pandora's box. I've opened up a box of so many memories and so many issues and so many regrets and so many joys. And it's huge. I mean, it's a big, big personal journey. And it's also going to be about growing older and why we should try and do things as we get older, as opposed to going, oh, I couldn't, like the English, oh, I don't think I could do that anymore, or I always wanted to do that, but oh, I don't think so now. I've missed my chance. I'm going, no, you know, if you want to do something, do it. But and I realized that my match made in heaven, and this is, I will give you this one line from the book, which I do love. My match made in heaven, who would have thought that it would have been with the machine? And that was the Fairlight.
Wow, okay.
And that was the Fairlight that was brought in, the computerized Fairlight that would, you know, you would feed a sound in. Mm-hmm. And of course, that was my voice that Trevor Horn started mucking about with. That was at the very beginning.
Wow.
Those are the sounds on Give Me Back My Heart and all of that. And it was a validation, you know, if you've got a small breathy voice, it was always, oh, you don't sound like Tina Charles or Sheena Easton, you don't have a big voice. And I'm going, oh, no, I don't. I've got a tiny voice, but it's a pure single, but with this halo of air around it. And we worked with that anyway with Chris Neal as well, brilliant producer, you know, but that was me layering up and layering. But it wasn't until the Fairlight that you really started to see that there are all kinds of voices that can be exceptional. It's mm-hmm. not just about volume and
power. Yeah.
Belly. It's not. It really isn't.
No. I was working before I came to Mexico with a classical artist called Mary Jess Leverland, and we had written a duet together called Hold On To Me, and it was on my last album. And she's an amazing classical artist. She sung the vocal track to the Downton Abbey theme on the movie and stuff like that. I mean, she's just a beautiful girl with a beautiful voice. And when I was in the studio, because she's a classical artist, I don't know what I expected, but she was like, I'm like, I can't hear her singing. She was so pure and angelic, like on this microphone, in the most softest, purest tone in the album. The emotion in that tone is incredible, almost, but to the human ear was kind of almost inaudible. But and I thought, in order to, because especially me, I was brought up where, to be emotional, you're Whitney Houston and you're like, and you're powering a vocal, and that means emotion. Because I didn't know how to put emotion into my vocals ever. And then when I was working with Mary, I'm just like, oh my God, I have never heard emotion like that in a voice. And that is the quietest voice I have ever heard in my life. Amazing. Yeah. I mean, she can power it as well, because she's a classical artist, but amazing.
So it's kind of and I think talent comes in all sorts of different ways. And we should never just try and pigeonhole people saying, well, they're better because they've got a bigger voice, and sometimes when I'm listening to lots of diverse music at the moment, but I don't like people that just have to give it full throttle and screaming on a record does not fill me with excitement. It just does not. Some people, they go the louder the better, and let's make the key as high as possible so it's right at breaking point. And I'm going, makes me uncomfortable.
And it's short, actually. I kind of feel like, I mean, I've never been to a football match, and I've kind of turned, I've turned a few of them off on TV. It's never been my bag, too much noise. But it kind of feels the same how I feel when everyone is doing that jeering at a football match. It kind of hits me at a point where I'm like, oh, I can't, it's become noise now, and it hasn't become music anymore.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I'm a kind of, I sort of think, and it's all about timing in life, and kind of was interested when Ellie, I loved sort of the Calvin Harris kind of era, that kind of music, and then Ellie Goulding comes along.
Yeah, great.
And some of her sounds, I'm thinking, I would have loved to have been making records then, because it's just kind of there are certain voices that really blend in with certain, the landscape, the musical landscape of the track, and there should be a marriage. I don't like records so much where the voice is separated from the track. It's just like the track's just like a vehicle, and it's all about the big voice. I like something that's all molded together. It's a
voice is another instrument in that orchestra, right?
Exactly right. Exactly. Yeah.
Have you heard of Christina Perri?
Yes, I have.
She sung 1,000 Years, and she sung. Oh my God, I can't remember the song. But she also, I've heard her singing a Carpenter's song recently. And if you close your, I mean, you can tell it's not Karen, but if you close your eyes, she really had that warmth and that emotion and that, oh my God, that kind of just taking you into this dream state about her voice. I was really quite shocked with that. Another great artist. But yeah, there's some amazing artists out there. I just think when I was doing my thing in the 80s and you were doing your thing in that from, kind of the 70s and onwards, we didn't have the blessing and the curse that is social media. So if you wanted people in Leeds to hear you, you had to slog it up to Leeds, do a 3-song PA in some dodgy ass nightclub, hoping they weren't too drunk or eat off their face to remember the name of the group the next day, and try and get back 5 weeks later to kind of cement that you are in this group, and then this is what you sound like, in the hope that they will follow you. Now I've made an album, and in the space of putting my pen down and going for a wee, I've sold an album in Ethiopia, completely random. But do you think, for me, I still reminisce, because they were really good days. The 80s and the 90s were class in the industry. I remember going from, the reel to reel to DAT to, then to Logic and all the kind of, the computerized system. But I was there when people were still cutting reels and sticking it together with sellotape and then doing that.
Oh, absolutely. And everyone, there are not enough fingers, so everyone's got a fader, and you've got chalk marks on the desk. At this point, you move that like that. At this point, and if you want to have a certain kind of echo, you're using tape echo. you know, or we want to flying the choruses in.
Yeah.
You would actually only sing the chorus once because you're only in a rush. So you get the chorus and you cut the tape. Yeah. And you just have to make sure that you hit the button go at the right time to fly in. And saying, was that? No, it's a little bit early. No, it's a bit late. I mean, hysterical.
Yeah, and everyone's sitting there going, doing exactly what we did. No, that was early, and you're guaranteed the person said it was late next year. Like no one really knew it was like, but it was amazing days, and I really missed that. I mean, that was all kind of mysterious. You couldn't do it in your bedroom or your back room or your bathroom or your garden shed, and it was kind of like, it was mysterious and it was wonderful and it was magical on certain levels. And then I started to not particularly like the whole social media stuff. But do you think now that actually for artists, that aren't in their teens anymore, that you now, because of, who you are, because of what you've achieved and what you've done, because you still have a following of people that adore you, you could release that album that kind of didn't get to see the light of day back in the day, because you are now Thereza Bazar and you own all your social media and people love you for that. So do you not think it's actually opened up a whole do-it-yourself business now?
Yeah, I mean, I do love that. I love the fact that if you've got a message, if you're have melodies, if you want to do the whole thing and create music, why should you be dependent on some A&R guy's ears who happens to not like your style of music?
Anyway, yeah, absolutely.
Your voice. Why should that stop you? And I think that is a great thing. I just think it's just that there's so much of it that it's sort of is it sort of like let's throw everything against the wall and see what sticks, and it's not really even that. Again, you said it's sort of everything's changed and yet nothing's really changed. We listen with our eyes, don't we? We listen with our eyes, and TikTok is really so representative of that people want to see something fabulous, and then the sound of the voice and the everything is sort of an afterthought.
Yeah, well, they don't even want to see fabulous. They kind of want to see as much flesh as possible. When I started going on TikTok, I was just like, oh my God, like everything is just dance routine. It's people pulling really unattractive faces while doing makeup and then becoming the most beautiful creatures after they've done their makeup, or it's topless boys with semis prancing around in their front room. And I was like, I don't want to be old-minded because I can still dance and I can still sing and I can still have a really good time. But I thought, I still don't think I want to do any of that, really. I still...
Really, yeah. Sorry,
I remember as well, like when you were making a new track for a single, they said you've got to get them in 30 seconds. Now, like I was talking to a young lady who's very stunningly beautiful, British country singer called Jess T, amazing voice, great girl, like just a real, just good human. And I was saying, like now people's attention spans are 15 seconds. They don't want half-hour, 40-minute, 1 hour chat shows because they're not interested. They're just interested in what you like in a swimsuit and whether you can do a dance routine. That's kind of all they're interested in now. And she was saying, you're right, but then if no one does what you're doing, then there's never going to be the option for the others that actually aren't into that. So, I said, and that's why
exactly the same things. Yeah, we've come around full circle again. You've got to have something that might be wholesome and beautiful and goodness, selling all of that as opposed to sex or violence or nudity or whatever it is. I mean, but it's sort of, it's always like, why does it have to always be the outer areas of the spectrum rather than coming back in? But it's
just the way it is.
It's very strange. As I said, I haven't written for ages, but I've just started writing again, and actually and I'm sort of writing a song that sounds like quite a solid traditional pop song.
Cool.
And kind of in hearing Pink's new song, it sounds like, she sort of talks about, it's like a Whitney Houston song, but it sounds like a Whitney Houston, and I'm thinking, wouldn't it be interesting if we came back to that solid, real meat of the music bit, which was fabulous songs with great productions, and they're the hardest, that's the thing. They're so tough. It's so much easier to write a trance track. I mean, you have to say repeated line. It's like you can chuck them out, it's just,
and then you're just pressing a different chord.
And you find a lick and a hooky sound, and then it's just brainwashing stuff, isn't it? I mean, you just keep going over, and eventually, if you play something enough to anybody, they will remember it. Of course they will.
Absolutely. I think the whole thing is about being your authentic self, doing what you love, and whether I try and do everything now without expectations. Expectations for me just create disappointment. So now I do what I do because I love doing what I'm doing. If nothing comes of it, I'm still loving what I'm doing. It don't matter. If something comes of it, then great. I continue doing what I love. It's wonderful. But
it's the younger people, though, who haven't had the experiences. It's all, again, it comes back down to validation. And the thing is, where's your barometer of success? Or so now it's likes, I suppose. The more people that are following you, and the more people that the likes you get, validate someone's talent and what they're doing. Which it would, if it was honest and sincere, yeah. If it's manipulated and faked, I don't know.
I remember seeing a clip of a chat show in the States, and there was some guy saying that he's disowned his mother because his mother's got only 50 followers on Instagram. And I'm sorry, but I really, really can't be dealing with someone that is so unliked by the public. And I was like, really? Have we become like, oh my goodness? But I guess like I said, we haven't really evolved a lot as humans, really. I mean, we're very intelligent, and we just keep doing the same stuff. We do hate, ego, game, jealousy. I mean, it just does this. And not many people celebrate other people's success and are really kind of, like, I love it when I hear a good success story because it vibes me to want to continue and to press them like that, but we're not really good at really listening, not with our eyes, listening, looking at the person and, not just the look, but what they bring to the table, that they've done their work. They are super talented. It doesn't matter if she's got a beard. Like, it really don't. Like, she's one of the most beautiful voices I've ever heard. But people are like, oh no. Like even when, Susan Boyle became a singer.
We are cut from the same cloth. I was about to just say, and let's use.
But it was, great singer, but it was a bit of a circus, like she was a lovely vocalist, beautiful voice, but she only made it because of the, I don't know, I don't know, my English, I'm trying to even think of English words now, so it's very difficult. But if there hadn't have been that difference with her, then she probably wouldn't have been famous. If she'd been a really beautiful, leggy blonde, she wouldn't have got anywhere with that voice.
Exactly. She was the perfect vehicle to use someone in spite of their image at the beginning, but just taking the voice and then transforming her. It was like a complete mate. I mean, it was a gift. I mean, a gift to her, of course, and I'm so happy that happened, but also an incredible gift, just because, and that was memorable. But it's almost like, again, it's an end of the spectrum. Why can't you just have?
Absolutely.
Yeah, why can't people be sort of successful on their own merit? Why does it have to be so extreme?
I really wanted, one of my dreams when I was younger was I really wanted to start like a school of talent where it didn't matter if you was like, if you were like 87 years old, but you still loved writing Gothic horror. Why shouldn't you be an authoress at 87 years old? Why should you not? One of my best friends when I lived in Devon for a while, when I first started doing classical music. And one of my best friends there was evacuated there during the war, and she became a maid and a chef. And I used to do like a Saturday market with her and help her out. And she became, I called her my market mum, and she was in her 80s, you know. And then one day I went round for dinner. And I just love her stories, you know, talking about the war days and stuff like that. Such an interesting, beautiful woman. And she went, "Can I play you a cassette?" And I was like, "Well, I've not heard that word for ages yet. Put your cassette on." And she'd recorded herself. She was in her 80s, so she must have been in her 70s. She'd recorded herself singing to someone on the radio. And oh my God, like I was welling up. It was like Julie Andrews meets Judy Garland meets. And I was like, wow, if I would be recording albums with you and doing everything. You know, what a talent. Never ever done anything apart from sing in the kitchen while she's cooking, and you know, at the age of 79, 80, recorded her voice on the radio. I'm like, oh my God, the world should be hearing that. That is just amazing. So why shouldn't she be a bloody star at 82 years old?
Well, exactly, but that's the idea that we thought at the beginning of Britain's Got Talent, or whoever's, you know, Mexico's Got Talent, to try and find people like that. But of course, that's the naivety. It doesn't really work like that.
It became
it's all about raising money for the TV show and what's going to work the best. And it's just, you know, it's as you said, it's a very cruel industry.
Well, also, I mean, I was scouted for a couple of these shows, never auditioned, because firstly, I really don't believe in competitions, because what is one man's pleasure is another man's poison. And I could never say that I think you are crap, because who am I to not own? I've got no right to voice my opinion, but also that might destroy your dream and your faith and everything. Everyone else might think you're lovely, but it's my personal opinion that I don't think you're great. But that could destroy everything you've been working and dreaming of. Who am I to take that away from you? So for me, I'm just like, if I don't like a particular style or genre or music, I'm like, you're great, it's not for me, you know. And I remember sitting, like, I was already through to the finals even before I'd auditioned. I hadn't even auditioned because I'd been scouted, you know. And then over the tannoy system, it's like, okay, the next round is to be seen by the record company's agents. If you can have your sob stories ready. And I'm sitting in there and going, oh, you know, I was abused when I was a kid and my father died when I was young. And I'm just thinking, actually, do you know what? I'm not even interested in this competition, to be fair. Like, and it don't matter what has happened. You either like me or you don't like me. And they're like, well, I'm sorry, not through to next level. I'm like, that's really cool. That's really cool. I don't feel I need to prostitute myself just to be noticed.
Exactly.
You know? It's a crazy industry. But I can't see much change in the future, but what I can see is that now we are blessed enough to be having, you know, the medium of social media to be able to do our own thing, to be able to talk to people, to be able to network, to be able to do these things. So apart from writing new music and doing your book, which must be some kind of, I guess, therapy as well as completely difficult as well, right? What else is going on for Thereza Bazar at the moment?
Yeah, well, so on the social media front, I'm self-confessed that, you know, I haven't really contributed more or less-ish for many, many years.
But you're on it now. You're starting now.
I'm on it now, my darling. I'm on it now. But that's because I really felt, when I do commit to doing something, I do it properly. You know, that's always been me. And I kind of thought, I don't really want to, and I don't need to share, you know, what I'm doing when I'm walking in the morning, and I think this and da-da-da. And then I was talking to my literary agent in London, and we had a long chat, and I suddenly thought, you know what? Sometimes you just have to conform to what is required to get the job done. And so that was my New Year's Eve commitment to myself. I went, I am going to be a social media person. I'm going to play catch up. I'm going to learn. I hadn't got an Instagram account. And my older son's wife, she said, I'll show you how to do that. You know, we sat down she just showed me actually at Christmas lunch, and I started practicing during the week, and New Year's Eve I went, that's it. And it's a job. It's a job.
Oh, it really is.
And I suddenly start looking at some of these Instagram pages. I mean, Sam Fox, she is, you know, her followers, and she's busy and she's doing so. And I'm going, wow, wow, wow. Where have I been? I had so much more time than I do these days.
Are you enjoying part of it though? Is it kind of opening up a whole new kind of realm for you now of possibilities?
Yeah, it is. And I think, you know, sometimes I'm very good at sticking my head in the sand and going, no, you know, I'll get round to that, but I really want to do it in my sequence of events.
Yeah.
And then I suddenly realized you can't really do that because you're going to have to do everything concurrently. So it's interesting, and I do love, like, you know, the fans that have been so supportive. The very fact that they know it's me now, and I'm doing posts. So my commitment is a minimum a post every day, but hopefully 2 or 3.
Wow, you're a good girl. You're better than me.
And I'm on week 2. You could ask me again in about week 20.
Okay, yeah. We'll talk again in June. And I'm like, I'm not seeing any updates, Thereza. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you know, I've seen that photo before. I'm going, okay.
Yeah, well.
And now we're now going to do gardening with Thereza, or we're now going to do, let's go back to makeup of the 80s, you know, but whatever it is. But I think it's authenticity. And part of the whole thing is, just because I'm 67, I'm going to be 68 this year.
Wow.
You know, I used to stutter and go, and now I go, I'm 67. I don't mind being 67 because sometimes I forget and I really think I'm 37, but then the mirror does not lie. I'm going, okay. But you know what?
Yeah, don't you worry. I'm coming up to my 50s.
Thank you for that. But wasn't fishing for compliments. But you know what? But it's meant to be a message for everybody. The age thing should not be an excuse to stop you from doing whatever it is you want to do.
Absolutely. And actually, thank you. I've been really struggling with how fast my life is going and the fragility of our lives since the whole COVID thing. I lost, literally in the last 3 months, I lost 9 people in 6 weeks. You know, and I'm thinking, and I'm now, you know, I'm coming up to 50 in a couple of months' time.
Oh, that's exciting.
It hasn't been, but I'm really pleased you just give me that message, because actually that message is amazing.
I'll be there. Let's have an online party.
Okay, let's do it. Absolutely. Because I was thinking, oh my God, like, I don't mind. I mean, I'm still a 13-year-old girl, actually. I'm still incredibly crazy excited over Christmas and Harry Potter, you know, and, you know, butterflies in the garden and stuff like that. Like, I really am, like, I'm still waiting.
So am I. And we are not alone.
But the thing that I don't like is everyone around me. Like, my mum isn't allowed to get older. She's banned now. And I've told her, you ain't aging, like, no more. Like, you're done. 77, you're stopping there, darling. You know, because, like, that's the thing that I panicked about was, oh my God, like, I'm still doing all right, you know, but I'm like, it just takes, you have a different view. Like, when you're young, in your 20s, and I think this is for everyone, right? You're too shy, too insecure, too nervous to really enjoy everything. And then you get to your 40s, 50s, and 60s where you actually kind of think, sod it, I don't really care what people think, I'm doing what I love. But you don't have that vehicle that carried you in your teens and your 20s.
Exactly.
Because now, you know, like, I want to be in bed with Netflix, you know, at 11:30 at night. I don't want to be going out to a club and singing, really, you know, if I have to. So it's like, but I really love, thank you so much, that message, because you're absolutely right. It doesn't matter what age you are. It's always about being you and living your dream, right?
Yeah. And I think if you're a performer, all artists are giving people, because that's why we perform. I mean, otherwise we would just go and perform to ourselves, you know, and artists, be it painters or sculptors or writers, we do it to share our art because it's a way of communicating, but also giving pleasure, getting an incredible kick out of someone gaining pleasure from what you've created. It's such a buzz. I mean, that's why we do it. But the thing is, that should be celebrated, and people should be encouraged to keep going. You know, I don't, you know, that there isn't, it's not like the portcullis is coming down and you go, bang, you've missed your chance because you didn't do it by the time you were 45 or 50. Or who cares?
Yeah. Well, I think pre-social media, yes, it would have been the portcullis coming down. I remember watching, I don't know if you remember, there was a sitcom called Butterflies back in the day with Wendy Richards, and it was really, really funny. And I can't remember who the other guys were. I mean, she was really famous and her husband was really, really famous. And basically, I just remember a scene where her boys had now grown up and gone to college, and she was in her early 40s, I think, late 30s, early 40s. And then that was it. That was it. It was A-line skirt, blanket around the shoulders, sitting on the chair while husband's working, kids are at college, and that's you done now. That's you. That's all your purpose gone. And it was it was like that for my mum's life and stuff like that. But I think now, because the world is so obtainable, that, you know, we can be doing this, you can be releasing a new single and a new video tomorrow morning if you want to, and everyone will see it. You know, whereas before,
that's right, and it's even more than that. You can have your independent thoughts. You can dress how you like. You can do whatever you want. Yeah. If you don't agree with someone, I think that's the thing. You can actually live a little, and for once, you know, I can live a little bit more dangerously. I'm not a risk-taking person, but you can live a little bit more dangerously, and you can actually do. You can do whatever it is you want to do. And being old can be a real secret weapon.
I don't think it's even being old, it's being maturer is the secret.
So maturity is a valuable asset.
Yeah, it's the new youth.
Youth is, forget it. You know, forget it. Youth can be helpful, but maturity is a very valuable asset. So don't squander it, everybody. Use it.
Yeah, and it's really amazing, you know, like watching yourself and, you know, other people that were, you know, hugely famous when I was younger, you know, with the whole, is it resurgent? Is that the like the uprising of like the festivals of like the 80s music, like to Pow and Bucks Fizz and Five Star and stuff like that. And I'm just like, did you all kind of think, like when you were doing that in music in the 80s, that by the time you was in your 30s and your 40s, it was pretty much done, dusted, no one's going to ever buy that record again? Did you ever imagine that 20, 30 years later, people are still going to be in the middle of a bleeding big festival, dancing to Mirror, Mirror, Light of Love?
Try 40 years. Try 40
Isn't it incredible? It's incredible.
I thought I'd be dead by the time I was 40. And yet here I am, you know, going, people still love it. And I kind of go, that is really cool. I mean, that is real, and that is sort of the icing on the cake, really, which galvanizes you. And I mean, I've got as much energy I feel I have now as I did sort of 30 years ago, because I'm passionate again. But it's a long time between drinks, about 30 years. Well, who cares, you know?
Yeah. But also, it's such a bloody shame that when we were insecure and worried about how we, you know, how people would look at us and how we would be perceived by others, that, you know, you didn't know that actually you're creating a legacy, and in 40 years time you still got it and you're still doing it and people are still loving you. Maybe then 40 years earlier you'd be like, this is for life, mate. I'm going to be kicking this in 40 years time. I've got no worries with what I'm facing.
If only we knew. If only we knew.
Well, they say it is something about, you know, like the beauty of youth but the wisdom of age, you know, like if only I knew then what I knew now, I would have made so many choices. That's incredible. So the future, I want to ask you about your future, what we've got coming up for Thereza Bazar.
Yeah.
So Thereza Bazar, we've heard about where you have been, where you have come from, kind of what you're doing now. But what I'm interested in, now you are a social media goddess, what's coming up for the Thereza Bazar stable? What are you going to be throwing out in the not too distant future?
2023, who would have thought it? The book will be marching on, and I will be marching on and digging deep and sharing really sincerely and openly lots and lots of personal stories and the journey. And that is all coupled in with, want to talk about ageism. And that's very important to me because, you know, I've had a good life. I mean, some really big ups and downs. I mean, seriously big ups and downs, but you know, so many of us do, but I'm still standing, which is celebration in itself. But I want to talk about ageism and if like this little diminutive sort of pop person from the 80s can maybe have a voice in a different way to actually bang the drum a bit and push some barriers. I think that would be giving something back. And I've always been very into trying to give something back, trying to be part of a bigger picture. And that would give me such an uplift. That would be amazing. So that's definitely on the agenda. So I'm educating myself, which is good. And I'm stupidly, but maybe not, considering coming to the UK and doing a couple of shows or a few shows, which would
that'd be great.
Bonkers, but why not? You know,
why not? I hope I can get back to the UK when you're there gigging. You have to come to
me. We would be spending the whole night, my darling, jabbering and talking, going, I found someone I can talk to. I don't have to worry about what they think about me. It would be amazing.
Yeah, I think there'll be a fair few tea bags being used that evening, quite frankly.
So I want to kind of just push on whilst I can and celebrate all things that it's like a meeting of minds, of my mind and all the experiences. It's all like crystallized, and whether that was partly COVID or whatever, but so I'm busy. I mean, seriously, I'm busy.
That's
busy.
And more music, new music? You said you were writing some new music. Would you be?
I am. I didn't mean to, but it just sort of happened by accident, which is always a good thing.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't mind. It's not my thing to say, I'm going to make a new album and bring new music. But I would definitely maybe want to do something just because it's my favorite place, as you mentioned, it being in the studio. I love it so much. And it's never wrong. If it's something that you feel is good enough to share out there and put it out there in the ether and see what people think.
Absolutely.
For me, that would also be something I would love to do. You know, I love songwriting and spent a lot of my life ignoring because I was terrified. What if it's not a good song? You know, now I'm thinking if I want to write a song, I can write a song because why wouldn't I? So
exactly. It doesn't matter what people think.
No. So feeling in very creative mood.
Love it. Well, I think maybe a Jaden and Thereza collaboration in the next year or so would be, but we might have to do it remotely because you are over there in Australia and I'm over here in Mexico. But you know,
I love that. But we could, and you could, and we could muck around with sounds and voice textures and make something beautiful. You know, that would be fun. I'd like to do that.
That'd be very interesting. Yes, we should do that. Okay. So just put that on your back shelf after your book. Like, what else is there? I'm a bit bored this Tuesday.
No. I'm doing everything. Everything's up in the air at the same time. You mentioned butterflies. I was once compared to a butterfly, and I think they were absolutely right. You know, flitting around it, but that's how I work best.
Yeah. Lots of things boiling. Love it. Well, can I say, firstly, before we end this show, where can people find you on social media? Now you are embracing the whole of the social media.
Am I going to have to tell you? They can find...
No, but
I can't give you the... So they can find me on Twitter.
Yeah.
And that's Thereza Bazar. And I know how to... at Thereza Bazar, I know how to do that a little bit.
Yeah.
And they can find me on Instagram, which is my new toy. And I'm I haven't stuffed up yet. I probably will. Everyone go, oh.
I was very excited before I met you. And I was like, oh, Thereza Bazar from Dollar is following me on Instagram. I was like, who can I?
Yeah.
No one's here.
I did that earlier today.
I know.
What am I following you? I thought I know how to do that. So there you go, empowerment. And Facebook's great. And I'm putting up lots of little videos and kind of, and it's not like I don't have any makeup and hair. I don't have someone with a reflector. I'm kind of just going, this is me, and I love you very much, everyone, for taking the time. And it's a reciprocal thing. It's wonderful.
It's amazing. Well, during this whole interview, the links of all your social media will be running constantly. So people at home, this is where you can find the most amazing, the wonderful Thereza Bazar. So please go and follow her. Please go and show her some love. Follow, subscribe, like, share, comment, retweet, everything. Let's kind of really boost this young lady's social media skills. We got you, sister. Don't you worry.
You are a marvelous special man.
Oh, bless you, mate. Bless you. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I'm honoured to speak to you because you've trod the boards, you have worked, and you are a complete inspiration and one of the loveliest people I've ever met. So I thank you from the bottom of my
I'm sending you a very big.
big hugs from Mexico. And I'm very excited about our duet. And also, and when your book comes out or future music or future, let's catch up again and do another Jaden show and let's talk about it.
Wonderful.
Can't wait. Thereza Bazar, you are a legend, my friend, and you're beautiful. And thank you so much for your time. Take care, you. Bye.
Bye.
You have no idea how much I enjoyed that chat. And off screen, we chatted for even longer. She is such a super human, and I completely adore that woman. What an amazing artist and lady. Thereza Bazar, thank you so much for being part of my show. I'm still completely flying high after that interview. Now, normally I would leave with maybe one song from the artist, so you just get a little bit more flavor before we go. I've got to show you some more songs. Now, before I show you this next song, I just want to remind you that you do need to be going and checking out and supporting and sharing the love and showing some love to Thereza on her social media platforms. And you can also find her music on Spotify, Apple Music, all the major download and streaming channels as well. So go and check her out. Go and show her some love. Go and support. Go and find Thereza Bazar anywhere you can find her. Now, one of my favorite songs, and I must have danced around the bedroom to this millions and millions of times. This is one. It's still an incredible pop track, and I know you're going to love it. This is Dollar with Videotech.
Shoots the beat, take my partner from
videotape, we can dance forever. What a tune. That has brought back some phenomenal memories. A bloody amazing song then and a bloody amazing song now. And not the last song I'm going to show you from Thereza when she was in her group Dollar. Now, before I go and say my goodbyes, I just want to say thank you so much for spending your Sunday with me. Please follow me on my social media platforms as well. You can find me everywhere. You just got to Google me or find my profile on Linktree. I'm all over the shop. So please come and say hello in other parts of social media as well. It'd be great to see you on Facebook and TikTok and Twitter and all those other places. So thank you so much. I'm going to leave you with one more song, another amazing track. We were talking about it earlier because it was released by Erasure as well. This is Olamore. This is Dollar. This is goodbye from me. I will see you next week on the Jaden Show with another amazing person. Stay beautiful. Take care.
Just